All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Space and Rocket Review. It is January 28th, 2026. Not historically, not a great day for space flight, but we're here and we're going to do space news anyway. What's going on, everybody? I'm EJ, your host of the EJ Space and Rocket Review. You should know, it's right in the name. Anyway, we're not starting off necessarily with some space news here, but I have a quick 30-second video that I wanted to start the space news with. It's coming from Mazda, of all people, but you guys, I wanted to save this for the YouTube VOD. You guys, you should tell your friends about the Space and Rocket Review. You two girls, you in the hat. Tell your friends. Listen to this. Yeah! Yeah, Wizard. Did you hear the mint? That's awesome, dude. That's a 787B. Mazda posted that today. They took it around the Daytona Roval, which just hold on, just this sound right here. Oh, that's nice. That's real nice. All right. Should I just one more time? Just one more. Oh, that's sick. Your female friend doesn't approve, but listen to it. Listen to it. It's cute. It's just wang. All right. Space news. Let's go. Can I just... All right, that's really enough. All right, let's go. Space and Rocket Review. So that was kind of the shot, and now here's the chaser. It is January 28th, 1986. It's 40 years since January 28th, 1986. This is the anniversary of the STS-51L shuttle mission. Challenger, 40 years ago. That's not cool. Not cool, but it's important to remember. It's important to understand the risks that are involved with space flight and where you should take or not take risk here. So left to right there, we got Kristen McAuliffe, Greg Jarvis, Judy Resnick, Frank Scobie, Ron McNair, Mike Smith, and Ellison Onizuka. No, I'm not reading from a cue card. I know their names. But that's them in the crew access arm for the Space Shuttle. Challenger is behind them. Oh, boy. Those helmets are sick. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They were trying to do what SpaceX does with Dragon. They were trying to do it. We were almost there. We would have gotten it, but it's okay. It sucks. Sucks that happened. That was a huge turning point in the shuttle program. And that kind of brings me into the first bit of news. I mean, that was posted by Jared Isaacman. He's the administrator of NASA. On January 28th, we wanted to honor the 7 crew members of Challenger. Dick Scobie, Mike Smith, Ron McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Judy Resnick, Kristen McAuliffe, and Greg Jarvis lost 40 years ago today. We honor their legacy by staying vigilant, humble, and uncompromising in the pursuit of our world-changing missions. Now, This is something that came up when I was doing playing games a little bit earlier, but I wanted to show you guys something, and I wanted to show you something that's very interesting to me. So check this out. Take a look. So this was from the 24th. And Jared Isaacman is talking about the Axiom suit. He was talking about the Axiom suits. Look at this post. So I met with leadership. I met with leadership at Axiom Space yesterday to discuss the development of their spacesuit. It was great to see their facilities and all their progress. I shared with them exactly what I told our HLS providers. NASA will do all we can to help them accelerate and meet the timelines, with plenty of schedule margin to spare. As an agency, we must be willing to challenge the requirements and not let an hour go by on a problem that we can solve today. This is imperative to achieving the President's national space policy. Pretty straightforward segment. That means do your due diligence and make sure, at least how I take this, it means do your due diligence and make sure that this crap doesn't happen again. Normalization of deviance is what got the Challenger mission. Allowing things to be okay that weren't okay. Hey, good fellow, 47-month resub. Get them suits, let's go. Yep, and Dr. Death, 59-month resub. Thank you. Yeah, actually, just on a quick side note, the GPS-3 SV09 mission that I did coverage for NASA spaceflight last night, till about 2 in the morning. It was a long mission. Was named after Ellison Onizuka, which is pretty cool. So GPS-3 SV09, Space Vehicle 9, is named after him, which is pretty cool. Yeah. In Columbia many years later. Yeah, I would argue that it was the same stuff. But, interestingly enough, look at a reply to this tweet. Check this out. Now, normally I would say that this is just another, all right, people are doing social media things on social media. I thought that guy, EJ guy, was familiar. Yep. So look at that. Exactly the same message from NASA leadership that was made right before Challenger was lost. Hey, just for fun. Yeah. So if this was any other Twitter comment or any other social media comment on Insta or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, okay, pal. But it's Wayne Hale. Wayne Hale is... He was a flight director and a shuttle program manager, a flight director for 40 missions. That's very interesting to me that you do that. Now, if we read on in the thread here, yeah, I kind of did too, Baron. That's a really screwed up thing to say. And Rook was having none of it. It is disappointing and disrespectful that you would so casually invoke the loss of Challenger on a topic related to EVA suit development. Let me rework my above post to be the opposite of what I wrote, and please tell me if it sounds safer. I shared with them exactly what I told our HLS providers. NASA should do absolutely nothing to help them accelerate and meet their timelines, so there is no schedule margin to spare. As an agency, we must never be willing to challenge the requirements and let as much time go by as possible on problems. Is that better? Respectfully, do better, sir. And to which he replied here, check this out. It is possible that we are talking past each other. No disrespect meant. Your revision clarifies much. Oh, he ratioed the hell out of him. So, see, here's the thing, guys. Like I said, if it was anybody else, if it was any other just random person on social media, I'd be like, yeah, okay, pal, you know nothing. But Wayne Hale doesn't, this ain't his first rodeo, which is that's why I'm like, what exactly does that mean? What are you trying to say? Because I think Rook's response was pretty appropriate for what you said. And then he said, no, that we're not talking. Yeah, Boris has the right idea. What the hell? What's wrong with you? Is it possible they were talking past each other? No disrespect meant. You got obliterated and tried to backtrack. I don't know. Exactly the same message from NASA leadership that was made right before Challenger was lost. I don't understand that because no, like, okay, look, I wasn't there. I wasn't alive in 1986. I was not here. Challenger happened January 28th, 1986. I was not here. He was. So that's where I'm getting a little confused. But I am a huge student of spaceflight history. You really spaceflight history is spaceflight safety, I should say, is painted in blood. That's absolutely a thing. Yesterday was NASA's Day of Remembrance, remembering the Apollo 11 crew, or Apollo 1 crew. Not Dick Scobie. Man, dyslexia moment. Apollo 1 was Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee. January 27th, 1967, they had a problem doing a plug-out test with the Apollo Command Service Module, and it ended up blowing up. Good times. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that. If you wanted to discuss the details, we could, but I don't think that's the right move to do right now. Now, NASA's Day of Remembrance was yesterday, and today is the anniversary of Challenger, and then February 1st, 2003 is the anniversary of the Columbia disaster. So NASA doesn't have a really good track record for late January. So, but suit development doesn't equal O-ring negligence. Yeah, I think Wayne Hill's talking about this right here. As an agency, we must be willing to challenge the requirements and not let an hour go by on a problem we can solve today. This is imperative to achieving the president's national policy. I think he's replying to that, but I don't. NASA will do all we can to help them accelerate and meet the timelines with plenty of schedule margin to share. See, that's where I'm getting confused. Because Rook is basically, if I'm understanding this right, Jared Isaacman is saying, we're going to be diligent about this, and if we have problems, we're going to fix them. We need to fix them, and we need to, leave no stones unturned, because we have a deadline to achieve, and in order to achieve that deadline on time, NASA needs to be able to help as much as humanly possible. That's what I'm getting from that. Challenger was the exact opposite of that. Yeah, Challenger was the exact opposite of that, which is, he's interpreting it as rushing. Yeah, Cientic, that's what I can only assume. But that's really not the gist of what he said. And then after that, he says that they're talking around each other. I don't really understand what that means either. It's possible they were talking past each other. No, we're not. He's being pretty straightforward and direct with you. He's saying we're going to help them work through the problems quickly to meet deadlines, but also giving breathing room if unknowns come up. Yeah, Smirks, that's where I'm really... I agree with Jared Isaacman. Why would you invoke Challenger like that? Why would you do that? Like, okay, fellas, when you're talking about spaceflight, I've done a lot of STEM education for spaceflight history on here. I, to this day, have never shown STS-51L or STS-107's entry, descent, and landing. I haven't shown the launch. I've never shown that on stream, and I never will. You don't invoke Challenger or Columbia or Apollo 1 unless you really, 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 really mean it. That's like, think about it if you're, you have a deck of cards. You only really play that card when you really, really need to prove a point. I'm not exactly sure that that's the right thing to do. Because I once again, let's talk pertaining to like Artemis 2. I have my trepidations about the heat shield, but I'm just an armchair rocket scientist. I don't know. You know, I have to believe that I have to trust that NASA knows what they're doing with that heat shield. But I ain't about to just go stirring the pot and invoking Challenger in Columbia, you know? Even in my heated debates that I've had with Alex, you know, on Flame Trench and stuff about the heat shield and whatnot, I never, ever, ever, ever went there. That's so screwed up. And it's just kind of spaceflight taboo. You don't do that stuff, you know? What do you mean, like the decision to launch Challenger when it was below safety standards? I'm not 100% sure, dude. Was he on console for 51L? I don't know, Rarest. Yeah, I can't say. I'd have to assume that he was there. It was the management leadership at Thiokol. It was the management leadership at Thiokol to listen to the head SRB engineer. Well, yeah, that's a weird. Yeah, I understand what happened with Thiokol. I've read the Columbia Accident Columbia Accident Investigation Board and the Rogers Commission, which are the accident reports for Challenger and Columbia and Challenger, respectively. Hey, Steve Ree, what's up, man? Many of us who lived it probably have some PTSD whenever risk comes up, and a vanity-driven deadline is concerning to many of us. See, Multiplanetary, if that's the case with you, I'd like to ask you a question, just for me understanding. Was the Apollo program a vanity deadline too, or not? Like, what's the difference between President Kennedy setting a deadline for Apollo to land on the moon by 1970 and the current president saying get there by 2028? What's the difference? Apollo's a vanity goal. You know what I mean? I think the president needs to set bold deadlines, and it needs to challenge the country to serve to organize and measure the best of our skills, right? Like, that's, you could say what you want. You don't have to like the president, but that's a good idea. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you from a spaceflight perspective, as a spaceflight enthusiast, first and foremost, that that's a bad idea. It's not. It's a good idea. Yeah, exactly, Sam. If the Artemis deadline is a vanity goal, so is Apollo. Correct. The difference is that the program was built around the deadline. This deadline has been imposed. I suppose that's a fair argument, Aqualux, but, you know, if we didn't give the Artemis program any deadlines, we wouldn't have, like, they would, when are you going to launch? I get what you're saying, dude. That's not bad, but I respectfully disagree. I don't, look, without any deadlines, we'd be back on the moon in the 2030s, which is just unacceptable. Kennedy was scheduled to be out of office by then, right? Had President Kennedy not gotten assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, he would have, if he had won a second term, he would have served it until 1968. He has to be coming from somewhere. Even if he's mistaken, there's something he's seeing that's got him spooked. That being said, neither of them were being constructive. The reply is 100% smart, but Isaac Nim didn't say it. Isaac Nim didn't say anything that might have addressed that concern that was clearly voiced. It didn't illustrate the difference between now and before. Challenger was held to not listening to dissenting opinions on the safety of major flight components. Wayne is out of line with his thoughts. The Challenger launch was failure on management, which he was a part of. Outdoorsman. That's where I'm like, NASA has to have bold goals. Yeah, that's exactly right. And honestly, I think people are splitting hairs deciding on what's too bold and what's not. Goals without deadlines are just dreams. That's correct. No matter what Wayne saw, I came at it the wrong way. He was out of line, end of story. Yeah, I'm trying to make sense of where he's coming from, and it just defaulting to, that's just such a dick thing to say. Like, and I would really like some clarification there, but yeah, there was no clarification to the replies. Yeah. Go to Wayne quote the part they disagreed with. Sounded like the whole message. He didn't explain himself. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you Max, and that's kind of goes back to what I'm saying. You don't talk about Challenger in Columbia or Apollo 1 unless you really know what you're talking about. Now, I've never showed the footage of Challenger or Columbia or what footage there was from the Apollo 1 accident either. But I am not afraid to talk about these failures. The reason why I'm not afraid to talk about them is because I use it to teach people about ethics in spaceflight and ethics in engineering when it comes to spaceflight, and B, the problems that led up to this normalization of deviance in the case of normalization of deviance in the case of Challenger, and failure to conduct reasonable analysis in the case of Columbia. Which, yeah, I don't really get either one of those vibes from anywhere in particular at NASA, with the exception of Orion's heat shield. Orion's heat shield is a pretty big red flag, and he could be referring to that, but I think I've gotten my point across saying that I don't like the heat shield. And I've never, ever invoked anything that had to do with either one of the accident investigations from either shuttle disaster, which is very weird. You don't want to get into another space race, Rob. Yeah, that's kind of inevitable. We're kind of forced ourselves into that game. Didn't the Air Force have a payload on 51L? STS-51L was carrying a tracking data and relay satellite. It's just such an inconsistent message on one hand, trying to cut NASA's budget and killing the Artemis program, and then expecting SpaceX to land astronauts at the moon. Well, NASA's budget didn't get cut, multiplanetary. Yeah. I don't know if you remember the space news that I said where, we talked about the president's budget request for NASA and how it was ridiculous, and how I said it was ridiculous and there's no way that it's going to stick. Guess what? It didn't stick. NASA actually got a slight bump in funding. If you really want to know, yeah, you don't cudgel someone with a tragedy like that. Yeah, Wisp, it's so screwed up, especially since we're we're coming up on the anniversary of Challenger. I don't want to sit here and be like, no, Wayne's completely out of line, because I've read a lot of his blog posts, and a lot of them are very telling about the space shuttle program. I will say this, guys. I think to this day, the shuttle program was a management problem. It was a management problem. That's really the problem. It was a programmatic failure. There's nothing wrong with the shuttle's design. I really don't think so. I would even go so far as to say, even pre-Challenger, there's still nothing wrong with the design. There is design limitations to that design. The Thiokol engineers didn't design an SRB to launch in cold weather conditions. Is that a failure of the Thiokol engineers? No, they did exactly what they were told to do. That's kind of on NASA for trying to design a plane that flies into space and not making it equipped to launch in all weather conditions. That's kind of a problem. Just saying. That is not a design problem. That is a programmatic analysis problem. That goes back to your critical design review. And since you're going back to the preliminary phases of your systems engineering here, you're going back to critical and preliminary and critical design reviews, and those were signed off like that. Guess what? Management problem, pal. That's what that is. How cold does Florida get? It can get cold in the mornings, and winter time was up. It was really cold on January 28th, 1986. But isn't that normalizing deviance yourself? You're not happy with the heat shield, but you're saying, okay, let's see, because NASA management says it will be fine. No, absolutely not. That is not me normalizing deviance. I have no say in this, Aqualux. I have no say in it. If it was me, I wouldn't put people on that. Absolutely not, because I don't believe in normalization of deviance, and perhaps that's where Wayne Hale's coming from, and if it is, I agree with him. I don't. I don't think there is sufficient analysis nor flight data to say that heat shield conclusively is going to come back in one piece. And this comes down to how you accept risk in the space program. And this is why I brought all this up, guys. This is the gist of this. From every Artemis mission on here on out, there's gonna be risky. They're all gonna be risky. Every single one of them is gonna be difficult. We're not talking about going to the space station here. We're not talking about going up and coming back down. These are all really risky missions. They carry a lot of weight. Now, are we going to put risk? Are we being risk adverse because, well, no, what's the right way to say it? Are we risk adverse because, we're not willing to we're not willing to solve these difficult problems? Or are we risk adverse because, it's not safe enough, right? Like, and what do I mean by that? Like, are we taking a risk pushing the technological edge, or are we taking risks because we're afraid it might not be safe? Like, that's, you can have a safe mission, even with a lot of unknown unknowns, right? You can still have a safe mission. Predominant, thank you for the 1,000. I appreciate it. And, you put risk in trying to do new things, not vice versa. Like, I'm not saying it exactly right. You guys have a lot to say about this. Okay, let's see. With Apollo, the U.S. was competing with the USSR, who themselves were trying to beat the U.S. to the moon. So the funding was more about beating a rival than a vanity project. With Artemis, we see a new race with China. However, China really doesn't care if the U.S. goes to the moon or not. They are going. The USSR canceled its program after the U.S. beat them to it. If China was to beat the U.S. to the moon, would the funding remain? Don't know, Geeson. Maybe. Also, do we really believe that NASA and the government would send 4 people up there when the odds aren't good enough? No administration ever want to take the risk of having 4 dead astronauts on their hands. Yet Challenger happened, Sam. No, Canada would give them the green light if they knew the risk too. That's right, Blinga. Yeah, that's a good point as well. But STS-107 had an Israeli on it, so hey everyone, what's going on? Sorry I haven't been visited in some time. Don't worry about it, man. I'm here. I think that might be part of what he's seeing. Not that he's right in the way he voiced it, nor that it's actually a connection behind the things he's connecting the dots between. Yeah, okay. But it's part of. But if he was part of management, he wouldn't have the best insight of what's going on in the management's mindset before things went down the most. Aqualex, my entire impetus here, and I don't mean to be a jerk, was that the space shuttle management had no idea what they were doing. I think someone effectively saying, "Don't repeat the mistake I was part of," shouldn't be blown off like that, even if it wasn't said kindly. Sorry, I mean, now we've learned that lesson, I hope. Me too. He chose what I thought when he worded that tweet, but it was very bad. Yeah, I'm not sure. To be honest with you, dudes, I'm noticing a pattern. This is the reason why I bring it up. And I'm noticing a pattern. The pattern, I've seen, that's twice now that people have invoked Challenger casually in just regular discussion. Well, I want to do this. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Well, that's exactly like Challenger. It's exactly like Challenger. It's exactly like Challenger. No, it's just like Chloe. It's just like Challenger. They were asked that in the press. The press asked that question. Bill Harwood from CBS News asked that in a press conference the other day. And now you see people casually invoking Challenger here. And I get it. It's Wayne Hale. He's a 40-year program manager and 40 flight shuttle director. I get it. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. However, I think that casually invoking Challenger like this, A, does a disservice to the tragedy from that day, from 40 years ago. And B, if you casually invoke Challenger like this all the time, the tragedy loses its meaning and you repeat the same mistakes. Which is why, like, that's, I don't like this. I don't like that at all. He might be onto something, Oculus. It's not what I'm getting at. He might be onto something, sure. That's not the right way to do that, especially since NASA has a very risky mission coming up in the next month. That's way out of line. You're way out of line. You're a space shuttle program manager. You tell me you don't have anybody at NASA, you don't have a direct line to NASA to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this? Genuine question. If STS management had no clue what they were doing, per your own words, how can we be sure that this management has a better clue? Well, that comes from Jared Isaacman, Marcon. We're gonna have to see. You know, we're gonna have to see. Yeah. Look, hey, it end all 49-month resub. Look, I have my things about the heat shield, but bad vibes is not something that you should be pushing around like this before a high profile mission. You can't be like this, guys. I'm sorry, you can't. That's completely out of line. A, on the anniversary of Challenger, and B, because we have Artemis 2 coming up. It's completely out of line. This demoralizes people. How do we know there ain't people that have read this on social media that saw what you said, right? And now, you know, bad vibes screws with morale like that. You know, we got a shuttle program or shuttle flight director for 40 missions and program manager saying that, you know, this is just like Challenger. Can you imagine if you had a job that was in the critical flight path or critical launch campaign for Artemis 2, how that could be a problem? Do not spread bad vibes. Do not concern troll before launch. You can voice your opinions, but saying stuff like, it's probably going to fail like that, or it's just like Challenger, that is so ridiculously distasteful. It's just a horrible thing to say. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I'm highlighting it. I'm highlighting this because, you know, that's just, it's an awful thing to say, and don't do that. Don't do that. If bad vibes doom Artemis, then this management is just as incompetent as shuttle management was. Time will tell. We'll see what happens on the other side of the Artemis mission. At the end of the day, they have more information on the details than we do. They have a more informed decision. They know and respect the risks and do all they can to mitigate them. We trust the process and the engineering. And Demon, that's all I've seen put forth. Lightbro, I, for one, want all launches to succeed. Well, who doesn't? You know, we trust the process, the engineering, and everything that this administration, what Jared Isaacman has put forth, has basically been about that. Make sure you're doing your homework. Make sure we're retiring as much risk as possible. I just don't understand how you got those. This guy's trying to he's taking a risk. He's putting his neck out there, right? And he's trying to build a new culture at NASA that is very diligent and very deliberate in its process. And you get Challenger vibes from that? Challenger was the opposite of that. I need you to know that was not me gift subbing. Okay. Would you rather have done another uncrewed test? Sam Carr, if it was up to me, I would want an uncrewed test of that heat shield. You validate your analysis with flight data. That's systems engineering 101 when it comes to space flight. Hey, DH, gifted a membership. Thank you. The Artemis 2 crew knows the risks and is still signed off and accepted the capsule. I don't want to say it, Rarest. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. I can't. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. Yes, the crew accepted the capsule. If they're willing to accept the risk, let them fly. But also, look at that picture. I'm not saying it. I'm not going there. But hopefully you got the right message. On a more positive note, we would be covering Artemis 2 every day of the mission. I'll try to give you as much coverage as I can, dudes. The problem is that we don't see evidence of the process being followed, given how many first-time hallmarks we're seeing being done on Artemis 2 with people on board out at the moon. Shame they couldn't dig up the EM-1 capsule mock-up and launch it on a trajectory to test it again with the heat shield profile. What's stopping us from doing that, Sam? What's stopping us from blocking out another heat shield for the Artemis 1 Orion and then putting it on top of a Falcon Heavy to test it? Yeah, Flask, exactly. Give me 1 second, dudes. Okay. But the point is, dudes, I wanted to go in on this because, yeah, I don't believe in bad vibes. That is not okay. Don't do that stuff. Don't be like that. We need positive vibes for the Artemis 2 mission. Okay, this is a high profile mission. Okay, and that should be really, really. It's so screwed up to say something like that. I sadly feel that it's too late for the administration to back down on the mission now. It would look like a huge failure. It should have been done in the gap between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2. And now for some positive space news. Sorry, I know, shot chaser. I started with the 787B footage, and now we have that. It's not vibes about proper descent, not screaming, won't someone please think of the children. If that is not what you got from what I've been hinting at, Hellfish, I can't offer you anything else. I've laid it on pretty dang thick, dude. If you somehow came to the conclusion that that is not what I am getting at, yeah, brother, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, positive vibes. Remember that. Now, speaking of that, let's take a look at an Artemis 2 update. Check this out. So, NASA moves steps closer to the Artemis 2 fueling test ahead of launch. Okay. Teams at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida continue to prepare the Space Launch System rocket, Orion spacecraft, and ground infrastructure in advance of the Artemis 2 test flight. Engineers have remained on track and ahead of schedule as they work through planned activities at the launch pad and are getting ready to conduct the wet dress rehearsal, leading up to a simulated launch as early as Saturday, January 31st. The upcoming wet dress rehearsal is a pre-launch test to fuel the rocket. During rehearsal, teams demonstrate the ability to load more than 70,000 gallons of cryogenic propellants onto the rocket, conduct a launch countdown, practice safely removing propellant from the rocket without astronauts inside of the spacecraft. During several runs, the wet dress rehearsal will test the launch team's ability to hold, resume, and recycle to several different times in the final 10 minutes of the countdown, known as the terminal count. The rehearsal will count down to a simulated launch at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, but could run to approximately 1 a.m. if needed. The first run will begin approximately 49 hours before launch when teams are called to their stations, to 1 minute and 30 seconds before launch. 49 hours to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Followed by a planned 3-minute hold and then countdown resumption to 33 seconds before launch, the point at which the rocket's automatic launch sequencer will control the final seconds of the countdown. Teams will then recycle back to the T-minus 10-minute hold and then resume down to 30 seconds before launch as part of a second run. Oh, I didn't know that. Am I going to do a 50-hour stream? No. No. No, I am not. Okay. That's actually interesting. They're setting a recycle and going. The first thing is going down to 90 seconds before launch, and then they recycle to 10, and then they go back to 30. You have a fridge close by. Oh, jeez. Coward. If needed, NASA may roll back SLS and Orion to the vehicle assembly building for additional work ahead of the launch after the wet dress rehearsal. They're going to try as hard as they can to not do that. Are you doing NSF for the stakeout? I don't know. I'd have to see. Look up temps. Goalie, you could just say it's going to be cold that day. You don't need to say look up temperatures. You could just say it's going to be cold. I don't have the weather for Florida on handy. Actually, I might. Give me 1 second. I think I may have Orlando programmed into this. Oh, I do. Nice. So on Saturday, the low is 32 Fahrenheit, which is 0 Celsius. And the high is 60 Fahrenheit, which is like 16 or 17 C. That's not too bad. On Sunday in Titusville, the low is 25 Fahrenheit. Oy. Okay. Okay, that's a little cold. It may not meet work requirements. I do believe that is in the correct nominal range, but anyway. Over the weekend, teams successfully serviced the SLS rocket boosters, which involved loading hydrazine into the booster aft skirts. The hydrazine is what powers the APU. Yeah. It's a hydrazine catalyst that generates electrical power. Well, hydraulic power for the thrust vector control on the SRBs. The team continues to prepare Orion for flight, including stowing items inside of the spacecraft and performing planned pyrotechnic work on the launch abort system. Technicians perform checkouts of core stages 4 RS-25s and pressurize the tank and the spacecraft propulsion system used for fueling, called the composite overwrap pressure vessel. It's a weird way to say that, but all right. Is there already a date and time for the wet dress rehearsal? Saturday. With cold weather sweeping the country and lower than normal temperatures expected in Florida, Tuesday, January 27th, technicians are taking steps to ensure the environmental control systems keeping Orion and SLS elements at the proper conditions are prepared for the cold. Engineers and scientists are also addressing issues that cropped up during operations in preparation for crewed flight. During an evaluation of the emergency egress system, the baskets used to transport crew and other pad personnel from the mobile launcher in an emergency stopped short of the terminus area located inside of the pad perimeter. Since then, the brakes of the systems have been adjusted to ensure the baskets fully descend. In the coming days, technicians will take additional steps or take additional samples of Orion's potable water system to ensure the crew's water is drinkable. Initial samples showed higher levels of total organic carbon than expected. Crew will also remain in quarantine in Houston, which they entered on January 23rd. Huh. Okay. Couple bumps in the road here and there, but everything should be on track. That cold might play into it a little bit. But, like I said, this is what I mean about good vibes, dudes. Net February 6th. If that wet dress rehearsal goes good this weekend, we're shooting the moon next week. We're shooting the moon next week.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Well, they actually do the wet dress rehearsal if it's going to get that cold. They might have to postpone it. But worst case scenario, they postpone it to when it gets a little bit warmer, and then we shoot the moon in 2 weeks. We're less than a month away from potentially from a lunar launch. With people. I'm sorry. I just think that's very poignant. I think that's a very important thing to really kind of reiterate here. You need to be there somehow. Too close to the window, Squall. I'll be here with you guys. Don't worry about it. We need a May launch. I believe that's when it turns to a day launch window. I'll admit, yeah, a day launch window would be really nice. I'm not trying to get overhyped, and you're failing. Like I said, I think this mission will galvanize us. It doesn't... Guys, the Apollo program, the public really wasn't in... Like, okay. I only can study history. I wasn't there, so it wouldn't be a primary account talking about the Apollo program. But from what I understand, the public really didn't care. Like, there was the Gemini program, right? But it really only started to get real when Apollo 8 happened. Apollo 8 happened in December of 1968. So, the point that I'm trying to say is, you know, I know a lot of people are saying, you know, it's crazy that we're doing this. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like it. You know, nobody, it seems like nobody cares. Fellas, I have a feeling that Artemis 2 will do what Apollo 8 did for the Apollo program. I have a really good feeling. I have a good feeling that this will see, that we will see more interest in NASA, hopefully, and that we will see that having a national space program that's not commercial is a worthwhile thing. As someone who hasn't even seen a shuttle launch, should I prepare an extra pair of pants for the occasion? Yes. We were also mostly losing in the public eyes compared to the Soviets. That's right. And then Apollo 8 took the lead. Yep. What's the launch corridor look like? Sydney, this is going to, I believe, go straight due east out of KSC, I think. I'd have to go look. First flight to the moon with a toilet. That's right. How sad is it for space progress just to repeat what's done 60 years ago? Look, it's not ideal. TF, we should be on Mars by now. Not ideal, but I'll take it. We should be way further, but our lack of ambition grounded us into low Earth orbit for freaking 50 years. That time is changing. Spaceflight is still cool. Spaceflight is that's still the cool thing. Like when I was growing up, fellas, spaceflight wasn't really cool. It wasn't a cool thing. That's something that nerds do. Like it was liking spaceflight was looked at the same way that people like that don't understand Dungeons and Dragons look at people that play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, but if you've played D&D, you know D&D is fun. It's pretty damn cool, right? That's what spaceflight was like when I was a kid. It wasn't really cool, you know? It's not a repeat. We got a toilet now. That's right. That's right. Orion's got a toilet. The same way we'd look at you if you explained that you stream on the internet for a living. Oh, God, Lark, I know that view. I feel like that's coming up a lot more nowadays. If people ask me, like, what do you do? Like I'll be just having a conversation with somebody about cars or whatever, and they're like, "What do you do? You really know your stuff about cars. What do you do?" And I'm like, uh, I'm a contractor for Amazon. A contractor for Amazon, I swear. uh, yeah, that's usually what I tell people that. That's usually what I tell people that don't understand what live streaming is. I sell feed pics. What? No, I don't. I fix snowblowers. Online entertainer. That's Mutter, that's my job title on the books. Like that's what I'm on, like on my tax forms and stuff. That's what it says. It says EJ online entertainer, and I'm just every time I look at that, I'm like, that someone's gonna look at that and be like, what do you do? Excuse me? Excuse me? What? I'm like, oh no. Yeah, cryologs. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. I'm worried people are gonna look at that and be like, "Wait, what do you do?" I'll be like, "Oh no, no, I play games." Wait, no, you know. Anyway, so like I said, guys, we could be shooting the moon as early as next week. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Now, speaking of the Artemis 2 mission, I got the next thing up here. This was shared by viewers in Twitch chat. Let's see what we got. 4-minute read. NASA selects participants to track the Artemis 2 mission. NASA selected 34 global volunteers to track the Orion spacecraft during the crewed Artemis 2 mission's journey around the moon. The Artemis 2 test flight will launch NASA's Space Launch System. I'm distracted by that Artemis 1 gif. Oh my word. I'm sorry. That's a real picture. That's really cool. That's really neat. All right, anyway. The Artemis 2 test flight will launch NASA's Space Launch System rocket carrying the Orion spacecraft and 4 astronauts on a deep space mission. The agency's second mission in the Artemis campaign is a key step in NASA's path forward, establishing a long-term presence at the moon and confirming the systems needed to support future lunar surface exploration and paving the way for the first crewed mission to Mars. Can I read that sentence again? The agency's second mission in the Artemis campaign is a key step in NASA's path toward establishing a long-term presence at the moon and confirming the systems needed to support the future lunar surface exploration and paving the way for the first crewed mission. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to, you guys just said I'm a teacher. Let's go back to second grade. That's a run-on sentence right there. You should add it to the stream background. You know what? That's a good idea. I'm going to put that on the other computer. I'll save it for later. So yeah, fellas, that's a run-on sentence. Hey, NASA's a bunch of engineers. NASA's a bunch of engineers. You know, you want somebody that speaks good English, find a languager. Well, NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network, coordinated by the agency's SCAN, Space Communications and Navigations Program, will... Well, NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network... NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network, coordinated by the agency's SCAN, Space Communications and Navigation Program, will provide primary communications and tracking services to support Orion's launch, journey around the moon, and return to Earth Participants selected from a... Who the hell wrote this? Participants selected from a request for proposals published in August 2025 comprised of established commercial service providers, members of academia, and individual amateur radio enthusiasts will use their respective equipment to passively track radio waves transmitted by Orion during its approximately 10-day journey. That's one sentence. Look, man, look, I'm not like a huge grammar Nazi about this stuff, but I have to read this out loud. I think I'd rather eat a pine cone than do that again. Like, just, you know, like, that was a mess.
Go at throttle up.
Words, man, they're crazy. What's up, Urban? Like, I'm gonna try to fix this as best as I can, and we'll go. Okay. Well, NASA's Near Space Network and Deep Space Network, coordinated by the agency's Space Communication and Navigation Program, will provide primary communications and tracking services to support Orion's launch, Orion's mission around the Moon and Earth. Participants were selected from a request for proposal published in August 2025, comprised of established commercial service providers, members of academia, and individual amateur radio enthusiasts, who will use their respective equipment to passively track radio waves transmitted by Orion during its approximately 10-day journey. There you go. I don't do it with you guys, Squall. You aren't NASA, okay? Brother. Okay. The Artemis II tracking opportunity is a real step towards SCAN's commercial first vision. By inviting external organizations to demonstrate their capabilities during a human spaceflight mission, we're strengthening the marketplace we'll rely on as we explore further into the solar system, said Kevin Coggins, Deputy Associate Administrator for SCAN at NASA headquarters in Washington. This isn't about tracking one mission, but about building a resilient public-private ecosystem that will support the golden age of innovation and exploration. Could you please paste the link of the article? Sure. These volunteers will submit their data to NASA for analysis, helping the agency better assess the broader aerospace community's tracking capabilities and identify ways to augment future Moon and Mars mission support. There are no funds exchanged as part of this collaborative effort. The initiative builds on a previous effort in which 10 volunteers successfully tracked the Orion spacecraft during Artemis 1 in 2022. The campaign produced valuable data and lessons learned, including implementation, formatting, and data quality variations for Consultative Committee for Space Data Systems, which develops communications and data standards for spaceflight. To address these findings, SCAN now requires that all tracking data be submitted for Artemis II comply with its data system standards. To address these findings, SCAN now requires that all tracking data submitted for Artemis II comply with its data standards. Okay, I just read it wrong. That sentence is fine. Compared to the previous opportunity, public interest in tracking the Artemis II mission has increased. About 47 ground assets spanning 14 different countries will be used. About 47 ground assets spanning 14 different countries will be used to track the spacecraft during its journey around the Moon. I don't know, Rarest, maybe. Participant list. Canadian Space Agency, DLR, which is the German space agency. Commercial is the Gunhilly Air Station, United Kingdom. They, SpaceX, that's a ground tracking station that SpaceX uses. GovSmart in Charlottesville, Virginia. Integrasys, plus the University of Seville in Spain. Ooh. Intuitive Machines. Kongsberg Satellite Services in Norway. Raven Defense Corporation, Albuquerque, New Mexico. Reka Space Agency, plus the University of Douala, Cameroon. Rincon Research Corporation and the University of Arizona at Tucson. I know it's Tucson. Sky Perfect JSAT in Japan. Space Operations New Zealand Limited, New Zealand. Telespazio in Italy. And Viasat, Carlsbad, California. Von Storch, and then also Von Storch Engineering in the Netherlands. Individual, Chris Swire, Dan Slater, Loretta Smalls, Scott Tilley. Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome that, look at that. American, Fukui University of Technology, Morehead State University in Kentucky, Pixar Astronomical Research Institute in Rossman, North Carolina, UC Berkeley, SSL California, there we go, University of New Brunswick. Oh yeah, bud, we're going to find that spacecraft. Yeah, we're going to see it up there. It's going to be given a little bit of a radio signal in the background. And, we'll be able to track that radio signal with their big dish over there. Because NASA owns space, we got to make sure that, we can track their stuff up in space there, bud. University of Pittsburgh. University of Zurich Physics Department in Switzerland. And then, there's a bunch of nonprofits here. Yeah, Americans on there. That's pretty good. Careful, we'll send down you more. Yeah, careful. We'll send down more cold weather for you, bud. Oh, please, no, don't give me any more of that. I don't want any of that, man. That would be terrible. You don't own space. NASA does. NASA, space people. Maybe you heard of them. Sorry. Artemis 2 will fly around the moon to test the systems which will carry astronauts to the lunar surface for economic benefits and scientific discovery in the golden age of exploration and innovation. Tariff-free. Oh, yeah, we got some of your... Yeah, we got some Canadian water. We got a tariff-free, bud. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's great. No more cold, please. Do you think this is a golden age? Squall. Yes. Yes and no. I do think we are entering a new era of spaceflight. And that era pretty much started about, I'd say December 22nd, 2015 is when that started, when SpaceX landed their first rocket. I think that we are entering a new era of spaceflight where, it's not one launch every month or one launch every 3 months. It's one launch every 3 days. And I think that having our national, like the Artemis 2 stuff happening on top of the bolstering commercial space market is really, really cool, man. I'm not yawning, I swear. I didn't go to bed at 4 a.m. because of the GPS-3 SV09 launch. I swear that's not happening. I'm not yawning. You're not yawning, right? Right? Anyway. What about Muriang? Is that no longer in service? I'm not sure. You have the likes of Honda building rockets now. Well, I think we are. Here's the thing, dude. Look, I think that golden age in the context of history, and forgive me, I know English isn't your first language, so this might not make sense. But I think proactively calling something a golden age is a little bit counting your chickens before they hatch. If you really want my honest opinion, golden age is usually something that's retroactively applied to a historical event. Like the golden age of aviation is from basically World War I to World War II. That's the golden age of planes, of aviation. That's where planes came of age. They went from, wooden things with fabric, wooden frame with fabric over them to, riveted aluminum mono wing designs, and then ultimately to the jet, right? Like, basically World War I to World War II is the golden age for planes. Nobody called it the golden age at the time. You know what I mean? That was only retroactively applied. I do believe, like I said, it's coming up a lot. I do believe in bad juju. I don't like saying that we're going to enter a golden age. 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 No, I think a golden age is something that is retroactively applied to a sequence of events. So I think we could potentially be in a golden age right now. Like this era of spaceflight, and that's why I said it's an era of spaceflight. It started, I think, really when SpaceX landed their first stage. December 22nd, 2015. I was there. I saw it. I saw the first Falcon 9 land. I think that, saying, oh, we have an upcoming golden age. Like, no. History is certain, but the future is uncertain. So stop saying that. You know what I mean? Not you. I don't like that NASA is saying it all the time. That's a little strange. But once again, this is just a weird EJ idiosyncrasy. I know people will disagree with me on this. Yeah, bad juju equals hubris. No hubris. No. Yeah, Al Desert, I won't say we're in a golden age till I see people take I don't know why this is where my mind went, and I'm just going to say it anyway. And it's going to come out wrong, but I don't think we'll be in a golden age till, we can watch astronauts go into the bathroom on the moon and take a dump. If you really want my honest opinion. Not that the toilet is like your end-all be-all of like, golden ages of space flight. But bear with me. That means if like, we're not going to watch astronauts use the restroom. That's weird. What I mean by that, and this is why I stuttered for a second. What I mean by that is that I think we'll be in a golden age when we have an operational moon base. That would be a better way to say that. Fascinating. Control. Yeah. Make sure you don't force it. No. Astronaut, this is control. Make sure you don't force it. You could blow out an O-ring. That's bad. I was quoting Austin Powers, but also not the best day to be saying that, but hey, whatever. Here we are. Right. I just had a whole thing on how you shouldn't do that. Really cool. That is a much better way of saying it. Yep. Well, this is something you don't see every day. A SIGINT program got declassified. A signals intelligence program? What do we have here? But anyway, that's cool that Artemis is going to have trackers. I think that's super cool. I think that's a great part of doing STEM. Showing, if you're at a university and you're tracking capsule, you're gonna have kids coming there like, yeah, we're tracking the Orion capsule. It's right there. I think that's really great for STEM. And that all goes back to what I'm saying, that the best way to get people involved with space flight is doing stuff like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. Launching and landing. That's the best. That's the best way to get people involved. It's because it's the coolest part. Citizenship for the first baby born on the moon should be interesting. The moon is like international waters, NX. So if somebody was born at sea, whatever the ship's port of call, squids. That's the right way to say that, right? Whatever the ship's flag is flying. Yeah, the flag that's flying. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Whatever the ship's flag is flying, so like if you have an American flagged vessel and you're born in international waters, you're an American. That counts. The moon is the same way. per the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. If there was ever somebody born on the moon, if they're born in the American segment of a moon base, you are an American. Same thing with Russia, same thing with China, same thing with the UK or anybody else that wants to go. Let's be real, the UK isn't going, but you can dream. Dreaming is good. Sorry, guys. Too real? All right. All right. Flying a skull and crossbones? Yep. You're a pirate. You're a pirate, Harry. Just throwing UK emotions in the harbor. Yep. Americans have been doing that for 250 years, and it is in no way sad. Outside of that, no, you're not a Moonian Scientic, you're a Moonanite. Yep, that's the technical term, the Moonanites. You should Google it. Moonanites. Oh, sorry, Chris. My bad, mate. For what it's worth, I was talking about the Englishman, not you. So don't worry about it, mate. You'll be fine. The Moonitonians. The moon base better have artificial gravity or the moonchild won't develop properly. The moon has gravity, multiplanetary, dude. Moon has gravity. I mean, it's going to be a little bit of time before that, happens. But, there's ways to exert muscle mass, I mean, honestly, if you are born on the moon, if we have people born on the moon someday, they're going to need to do a lot of PT. You're going to need to do a lot of PT. Like, you're going to have to work out like a significant portion of your day so, you don't get atrophy or something. Like, that's what astronauts have to do now. The astronauts have to work out a couple hours every day, the ones that are up on the space station. And that's not just astronauts. Cosmonauts have to do it too. You have to work out because you have to keep muscle mass, or you have to keep bone mass. That's what you lose in space, and that's bad. You could go into cardiac arrest if you don't work out up in space. If you're up there for a long period of time, you come back down here, all your muscles are working that just like have you stand up. They're not working. They haven't been working in space because you float around, right? So yeah, you got to be very careful about that. I'm sure if we ever got to that point where we have some type of hospital or we have a city on the moon and we have people being born there, that the physical training regime will be very intense if you ever want to go back to Earth. No, Squall, I haven't tried it, but that's cool. We don't actually know the effects of low gravity on bones yet. That's what I mean, Fox. Yeah, that's what I mean. No one's going to be born on the moon for a little while. That we got to should build a moon base and figure it out, right? Like, that'd be really smart. We should have done that when we had the way to get there. That would have also been really smart. Choosing to not do that ended a golden age in spaceflight. Retroactively assigned. For HLS, do you think they'll have two separate toilets? One for zero gravity and one for use in lunar gravity? No. The toilet uses vacuum. You don't need gravity to articulate the toilet. It's vacuum cleaner. No, it's a very light suction. If it can work in microgravity, it'll work in gravity, dude. So I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. Something is going ham at McGregor right now. Here. Let's take a look. This is my buddies at NSF. This is Starbase Live. There's the chat. And the Starbase Live is showing McGregor live. This is a really, really, really nice shot of some 4 kilovolt transformers right there. Really nice. If you need 3-phase power, yeah, those look like 4 kV transformers. No, the rocket engine's also firing too. Yeah, the transformers are good though. 4,000 volt transformers. Yeah, I mean, there's 3 of them there. Yeah, pretty good. But hey! 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 I think that is a horizontal Raptor 3. I am guessing very much. You guys know better than I do. Hey, I'm watching here. I'm watching here. Get out of here. Are they going to use Raptor 3s on Flight 12? Yeah, Sydney. Oh, yeah. Sydney, the new version of Starship that is going to fly on Flight 12 might as well be a new vehicle. SpaceX calls it Block 3. No, the only thing that it has in common with Block 2 Starship is that it's made out of stainless steel. I'm not even kidding. Everything has been redesigned. Everything. EJ, redesign all the components. Every component. What do you mean? Every component! Everyone! No, sorry. Even the launch pad. So, yeah, they're going to use Raptor 3s on 12. And the whole Block 3, it might as well be a new vehicle. It is a completely new design. Like, everything has been redesigned. The picture of the original Raptor next to a modern one is pretty wild. Juice Spot, it is pretty crazy, right? Yeah. Yes, Will. Yes, Leon. Profession. Benny, get me everyone. What do you mean everyone? Question for you on Flight 12. How nervous are you about it? I'm not nervous. Chris, I personally think that we'll just do the Starbase segment now. I personally think that the mitigations and all the problems that happened with the Block 2 version of Starship were just that. They were mitigations. They were mitigations for fixes to said problems coming down the proverbial assembly line. Meaning, look, SpaceX didn't just launch Flight 7 out of the blue, all right? They launched it with mitigations, meaning that they knew it could fail. That tells me that if you're trying to design a fully, rapidly reusable vehicle, having mitigations just to make sure that stuff works tells me that reliability and full reusability was not the goal for the Block 2 part of Starship. So Flight 7 to Flight 11. That wasn't the goal. So what was the goal? Getting into space was the goal. That was the whole point. I'm serious. SpaceX is trying to get data on anything that has to do not with propulsion. So anything that would have been changed on Block 3. So propulsion, leaking systems, the uphill ride thermal protection systems, umbilicals, anything that wasn't any of that. That's what Block 2 was really testing, or they were really hoping to test, meaning the tiles. They were trying to do tests with the tiles. I personally believe that SpaceX. Do you guys remember in the golden age of Starbase tank watching, how SpaceX built there were entire McGregor Live is up. There were entire early Starship prototypes that they just retired. Like one of them is still sitting out at Boca Chica. That's Ship 21. They never used it. They redesigned the stuff, right? There was SN16 and SN17. Never used those. SN16 was completed and ready to go, but they didn't do it because SN15 landed. There was SN11, or not 11. There was 12, 13, and 14. They never used them because they iterated on the design and changed it. We're just seeing that, but on a much bigger scale. But instead of just scrapping the prototypes like what they did before, SpaceX took, what was it? I think ship 30, 31, 32, 30, 33, 34, and 35, I think were the ones that flew those tests. They took them and flew them. They flew them just for the heck of it. It's going to be a little bit of time before Pad 2 at Boca Chica is ready to go, right? So you might as well send them. It's going to up your flight cadence. It's going to get you a lot of experience on how to scale up the program in the future. Yeah, like I said, Mitigations was the big red flag there. I said this when I was down there for Flight 8. They're just mitigations. SpaceX doesn't do mitigations. You don't do mitigations in rapid prototyping and iteration. You don't do that. You just fix it. You don't just have like, oh, it might work. No, you don't do that crap. 21 isn't standing. It's ship 20 with booster 4 behind it. Yes. They also scrapped 21 and it was basically finished. These ships coming down the assembly line that were used from Flight 7 to Flight 11, they just sent it. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. Because Block 3 is the real fix to all those problems. There's no way they didn't know that. I'm serious. Now, it might seem like the optics of it can't be ignored. It seems like SpaceX is having a little bit of trouble. I disagree. I think it would behoove us to wait to see how Block 3 performs to really say whether that was a really bad thing or not. But I personally don't think that. I personally think that Block 3 is going to work just fine. I really do. I think it's going to work fine. I'm looking at you right here. This is January 28th, 2026. I think Block 3 will work fine. I really do. Because all the lessons learned from trying to mitigate problems on the Block 2 program, all those mitigations were just that, mitigations, but the flight data tells all. They learned so much about, they got so much flight data with these Block 2 starships that they basically didn't need, right? Because they were just waiting for Block 3, that Block 3 should be pretty good. It should be fine. Like fueling procedures. They got a ton on doing fueling procedures, a ton of data on that. You know, I don't think we're going to see any weird things with that. At least we shouldn't. Flight 12, you think will be like Flight 1 all over again, and Flight 13 will be the start that they need. I don't think so. With Flight 1, they had no prior flight data. There's flight data from the entire Starship program backing this thing up. I think it'll work just fine. Remember this, Chris. Remember. EJ said it. I said booster 19 by Christmas. Just saying. Then why are they putting tiles on Falcon 9? Now that I don't understand, Katra. I'm not 100% sure why you would do that. If I had to guess, better than nothing. Better than nothing. So there was a Starlink mission that launched this weekend, guys. This past weekend. And they had a bunch of Starship tiles taped to the front of the fairing. Pint of Guinness on the list? Hell yeah, I'll take those. I'll take that bet. Sure. I'll bet you a case, dude. I mean, I don't think you're going to be able to take that home. But when you're here, I'll bet you a case. Case of Guinness, the good stuff, man. The nitrogenated stuff. Hang on one second. Give me one moment. So yeah, this is a post from Spaceflight Now, but this is it right here. So this is the 1720 mission. Check that out. My guess is that is a revamped tile that they wanted to test. You see how there's no real coherent pattern to it? This is that tile right there, the one that looks like a home plate in baseball. That's one that's on a seam. And then there's the hexagonal tiles here. And then there's an end tile right there. That tells me that they're testing a new type of tile, and they're also testing how they work together. And they're testing the shim length here. So the distances between the tiles that are needed to make a nice seal between the crunch wrap that they're using. So that's iterative tile testing, if you really want my honest opinion. Surprised they didn't do this on earlier Falcon flights. They did. Strickler, everybody has a short memory. There was a Dragon 1 mission that flew with Starship tiles on it. A Dragon flew with Starship tiles on it at one point. Yeah. Now, yeah, that's absolutely a thing. Now, if we look at the fairing here, it's something interesting to look. The fairing half is right here, so that's the seam. The fairing is the aerodynamic component that's at the top of Falcon 9 that holds the payload. You can see there's a seam line right down the side of the fairing. The fairing will open like this. It's called a clamshell fairing because when they open like that. right? It's important to understand the location of those tiles, okay? These tiles right here are not in the hottest part of the fairing when the fairing goes through reentry. Now, SpaceX does reuse their fairings. You can see that that one looks a little bit burnt. That's because it's flown. I don't know how many times, but it has flown. Right, the serial number's down there if we could see it up close, but this fairing is flown. The part of the fairing that gets the hottest is right here. You know, the spot around all the burn marks, the spot that has had replacement pieces, that's the hottest point right there. That's the point of the fairing that gets that, and the tip, actually, if you really want to know. The tip gets really, really toasty, and then down here it gets really toasty. The reason why is that's just kind of how it's plasma propagation at hypersonic reentry speeds. It kind of, the way plasma flows, it's kind of like a boat hull almost, but kind of not, because plasma isn't a liquid. Think of this like the bow of a ship going through reentry, and then think of this like basically where the keel connects into the prow of the ship. That's the part that's under the most amount of hydraulic pressure when a boat is sailing through the water. That's the hottest part during a fairing. It's right at the front, right here. Now, look, very interesting. The tiles are not in the hottest point. So this tells me, right, that these tiles, SpaceX was looking for something very particular with mounting the tiles like that. They're not on the hottest part of the fairing. So like if this is the fairing, they're on the side almost. They're on the rim of the fairing, right? So we're going to keep using our nautical terms. That's the belt, right? So that tells me that SpaceX is not necessarily checking how much heat these tiles can take, but this test was here for plasma flow across. They're testing plasma flow across the tiles. Because like I said, think of how something kind of goes through reentry when you get plasma accumulation from air compression that causes ionization, it causes plasma, right? The plasma will flow up and over. It'll flow laterally across these tiles, which tells me that they're testing flow across the tiles with this particular design. If I had to guess, big guess, I know that that's what they're doing with that design. If I had to test this, if I had to guess what's going on here, SpaceX is seeing how many tiles they can get away with putting on the sides of Starship right here. They're testing flow across the tiles like that, across the tiles. So they're seeing how many, this is a test to kind of validate some data about where the edge of the tile will be in Starship's design. The reason why you'd want to do this is because, well, less tiles is less mass. Less mass, less spaceship you have on your spaceship, that leaves you more mass for payload and fuel. I don't know, might be important to something that refuels on orbit, just saying. But also, less tiles is less complication. The least amount of tiles that you can get away with here is less time for a Starship to be spending on the ground having the tiles be inspected, right? Think of it like an airplane. It's always important to test your flow. Well, yes, of course. The plasma must flow. Plasma flows, plus did you notice the flight profile of the Starlink launch? I did not see it, dude. I was shoveling snow when this thing went off. I'm not going to lie to you. That's what I was doing. That's why I missed this one. I checked it on my phone for a second, but I didn't see that. Less things that could fail, Dojo. That's right. It's at the hottest part that also doesn't soak in the ocean water once it splashes down. That's a really good point, Oculus. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, those tiles wouldn't get wet. But did you build a snow Kerbal? I have enough to build a snow Kerbal. Dude, okay. All right. If you grew up in a place that snows, we have a quantity of snow outside that is enough to build a snow fort. Okay. We are at that quantity of snow. There is enough to sufficiently build a really awesome snow fort and call it Fort Kickass. Okay. That is how much snow we have right now. It never did the roll program that Falcon 9 normally does. Interesting. And why haven't you built one yet? Because I'm 37 and I have a fort, and my fort is made out of metal. I'm sorry, your authority is not recognized in the high bay, in Fort High Bay. Did you manage to fix the snowblower? Yeah, everything works, dude. Yeah, I did a stream where we fixed the Poulin. I have no idea what I fixed, but it works. We took it apart, put it back together, and then it started working. I'm sorry, your authority is not recognized in Fort High Bay. Doesn't count because it's not a snow fort. It has snow on it, metric. There's snow on the roof, so technically. That was a great stream fixing it. Nice. I have 2 operable snowblowers now. Yep. You still have the adult toys to build with it. The question is, why haven't you built it? Why haven't you built it yet? Stands. Okay, that's fair. You need a lift. I do, Miller. I do. In good time, my son. Did you go out and use it? Yes, Sig, I did. I probably moved about... give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. About 1,000 square meters of snow. Yeah. Oh, yeah, give or take. I probably moved about 1,000 square meters. 1,000 square meter surface area at 50 centimeter depth with that snowblower. It works just fine. Oh yeah, no, it's great. Snow loads on the roof, fine. I'm not worried about it, Kinder. It's a metal building. I'm not worried about it. Yeah, it's fine. The beams that are holding this thing together are gigantically thick. They're like needlessly thick. How much road do you have? Sig, my driveway is about 100 meters. I live in the woods, dude. I live in the woods. By hand? No, with a snowblower, John. Jeez. No. Yeah, I find, as you said, interesting. It generally looked like a Starship launch. Well, Chris, the reason why Starship kind of flies sideways is so the flaps don't cause lift and potentially aerodynamically destabilize the vehicle on ascent. Starship flies sideways into space. It's interesting if it was following this ascent profile. Be surprised at how heavy snow is, especially when it gets all old, compacted, and iced. I'm not surprised by that, Sig. I live where it snows. There's 50 centimeters of snow on the ground right now, dude. And guess what? I'm getting another 30 on the weekend. Brother, I'm not being surprised. I know. And that's the sucky part. You have to shovel the snow. If you don't shovel it, it's just going to get harder and harder to move. So like in your driveway, you don't shovel your driveway, guess what? The snow freezes and it turns to ice, and now you have a skating rink. It's great. I love this. I love where I live. Terrible. Anyway, all right. Actually, while we're on Starship news, I'll just go into Starbase Live here as well. Check this out. Let's go into theater mode there. So SpaceX has been working on the ASU, the air separator unit, so they can produce liquid oxygen to, like, right on site. This is basically across the street from the first pad. And yeah, they're building it in sub-assemblies at Sanchez and then assembling it here. I'm not saying it's done, but there's definitely a lot of work being had there. They have two of the lattice cranes there. Starship flies sideways and then turns the flaps parallel to the ground before hot staging. That's correct, Yuri. Yep. It ascends like this and then it turns over. I know a place where you can watch rockets and it never snows. Maybe move there. That would be nice, man. That would be real cool. I would really like that. Kinder, you live in northern Germany, and now we had amounts of snow. And we had amounts of snow they are not used to up here. It was funny to watch. Oh, yeah. It was 46 C, 115 Fahrenheit yesterday, and the power went out. Maybe we could meet in the middle. Angie, that sounds like Melbourne or Tasmania or something. Yeah, the Aussie viewers have been telling me it's a little warm. It's a little warm down there. Sydney? Oh dear. Little? It's a little warm. Okay, that's hot. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, we should be able to meet in the middle somewhere. Highly recommend the RGV KSC flyover stream on YouTube's. Cool. Mail them some snow. Yeah, let's probably do that. All right, so check this out. We got a little bit of news coming from Blorgen here. Docking. Our Blue Docking System team successfully completed soft capture system testing at NASA Johnson's 6 Degrees of Freedom Dynamic Test Facility. This test completes a key milestone on our commercial low Earth orbit destinations contract. The fully vertically integrated system will fly first on our Blue Moon Mark II lander, then on orbital reef, and then on future vehicles. All right. This marks the first time we have confirmed the performance of our pressurized docking system in flight-like scenarios, meeting international docking system standard requirements. Whoa. Whoa. All right. Hey, how you doing? Ka-ching. That's the soft capture mechanism. Cool. It's even hot in Canberra. Yeah, just the hot air from the politicians talking. Wait a minute. Washington, D.C. is going through a cold snap. Okay, next news. Do you like hippos? You guys like hippos? Yeah, there's some leeway in the soft capture mechanism. Here. We got a video. This video is from Rocket Lab. It's the hungry hippo. Is there music? Yes, there is. Okay, can't listen to that. So that is Neutron's payload, reusable payload fairing. The reason why they call it the hungry hippo is because it opens up like this. It's a chomper fairing. It's all wrapped up there, but this was shipped from New Zealand, and it is now in Virginia at Wallops, and it's going to LC3. Neutron's 14-meter tall reusable hungry hippo fairing is the first of its kind for a commercial rocket. The carbon composite fairing remains attached to Neutron through the entire mission, opening its two halves to release the second stage and payload before closing again and landing back on Earth. Nope. Newt. All right. K-Whopper. K-Whopper. K-Whopper with a tag axle. That's an expensive semi-truck, dude. And also, look at the weights that he has to get traction. Holy crap, how much tongue weight do you want? Bro, they just crudely put a bunch of Jersey barriers over the drive wheels. That's awesome. Man, that thing must be pretty heavy. All of it. Yeah. There you go. It's crossing the causeway out to Wallops there. That's super cool, man. How wide is that thing compared to Starship? Oh, Neutron is... Five meter? 7 meter. Well, it's 7 meter at the base, 5 meter at the fairing. Okay, yeah. All right, I was right. So that's 5 meter. In this picture, Starship would be double that. Yeah. Like a Starship, if the bottom of a Starship was here, the top of it would be up here somewhere. Probably about where my mouse cursor is, and the nose would be like this. And then the back would be pretty much over here somewhere. You should do that in winter car. Put sandbags. We don't have a semi-truck, dude. Although, I did see somebody do a quick mod for my winter car. Somebody made a mod that instead of the tractor towing the trailer, the interesting thing about summer car and winter car is that the tractor tows around a trailer for firewood. That's not actually a trailer. It's a Gifu that's been cut in half and been used as a trailer. People have done mods to put a flatbed, to have a Gifu flatbed. And you can use that to deliver firewood. Yeah. Pretty cool, huh? We could do it with that. We could put sandbags over that thing. Let's say Gifu flatbed. Yeah, there you go. Gifu flatbed, man. That's actually kind of cool. I kind of dig that. Be much easier than moving the tractor around. Could you rally it? I don't know. But yeah, check that out, dude. We could do it with that. But that K-Whopper is like not double the length of this, but it's pretty long. I thought about trying to make a mod that removes the DMCA views. Yeah, it'd be pretty good. But yeah, Rocket Lab unfortunately did have a little bit of a setback with one of their qualification tanks down in Wallops the other day. But yeah, having the Hungry Hippo fairing get there is pretty good progress from them. Now, next thing is coming from Impulse Space. Impulse Space is a company that is working on building on-orbit stages. So basically strictly upper stages that are offered as kind of an a la carte service that you can attach to any rocket. Impulse Space was founded by Tom Mueller, who was the guy that designed the Merlin engine for SpaceX. Yeah, he's pretty cool. Let's see what they're up to. Phase 1 of the Helios vertical test stand is nearly complete at our Mojave facility. It's where we'll begin to operate the stage, validate design intent, and characterize stage performance, and move Helios from design into a high reliability, high performance vehicle. I love test stands. Yep, that's definitely Mojave. All the wind turbines are pretty dead giveaway. Actually, I want to see that now at Tractor Rally. Yeah. They're building a test stand. There you go. That's got a little ways to go before it's finished, but that does look nice. Was there a Ford park there a number of years ago? I don't know. Are you, Snibbles, are you referring to that picture? Nice. Yeah, I like this picture. This picture's pretty good. Unfortunately, that flame trench never got used because it's part of the X-33's flame trench. An entire launch facility that was built and completed and then never used. So, yeah, no. They built a pad for the X-37. No. The X-37 is launched inside of a payload fairing on another rocket. They built a pad for the X-33, and it was fully operational, and then they never used it. You had no idea. Yeah. It's in a restricted area. We can't go there, but it's right there. Pain.jpg. So like Slick 6. Yeah. Yeah. Where? This is on Edwards Air Force Base. It's in it's restricted area. You can't go there. But yeah, it's out there. Still want to know what's in that building. Yeah. No, they were doing something in it. So, look, something that I actually noticed just by looking at this stuff is that there were still some propellant tanks in there. There's still some GSE hooked up until about 2011. How much do you want to bet the parts are there waiting to get put together? Yeah, we never figured out what happened to the X-33 that was like 90% completed, did we? Never really figured that. They never said. So the X-33 was made, so that pad is over here. The X-33 was made right here. It was a Skunk Works project. And actually, I never noticed that the Skunk Works has a carrier flight deck on the tarmac. Now, why would they be doing that? Carrying the hull number 77. I bet you Tori Bruno knows what happened to it. Yeah. Tori Bruno probably knows where the X33 is. Guys, if you really want, I hate to burst people's bubbles, they probably scrapped it. They probably scrapped the thing. Lockheed probably scrapped it because they don't want people getting that technology. The FAXX was funded. Nice. He confirmed that they scrapped it. Yeah, Lockheed, dude, I'll be honest with you fellas, that Venture Star was incredibly advanced for its time. It's washing machines and Boeing doors now. Yeah. Yeah. All right. No down notes here. Yeah, the X-33 was cool. It would have been nice if it flies, but we got something like Starship, so Starship's pretty cool. I'm kind of happy with that. Kind of like the Avro Arrow. Tim, no more bad vibes. No more bad vibes. All right, so Impulse is working on their new test stand. We got something else from Firefly here. It's a video, so let's see what they're up to. Dude is staring into my soul. What up, dude? All right, ready, break. Okay. This guy hooking up toe straps. There's a crane block right there. Firefly is... No, the Avro Arrow is not to be discussed at all there, bud. Yeah. This is Firefly's facilities that in Briggs, Texas. It looks like they're working on some test articles here. If there's any music on the video, I can't play it or else YouTube's going to get antsy with me. So this is them loading a test article onto a dynamic test stand. All right, I'll risk it for the biscuit. Let's see. Yep, can't do that. Our inner stage is on the test stand for Northrop Grumman's Antares 330 rocket. This carbon composite structure is designed to connect our first stage to Northrop Grumman's second stage. More to come soon. All right. Somebody in your D&D group's partner works at that location. I could always ask a question or two if you need me. I actually have a question. Yeah. Why male models? I'm expecting you to ask it, Grav. Because reasons. You didn't ask. You didn't ask. You didn't ask. You just made that up right now. I want you to ask this person that works at Firefly, but why male models? Can you please do that for me? Nah, I'm good, dude. I actually know a good amount of people that work there too. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But Grav, I don't ask questions. That ain't my style. I shoot first and then I ask questions late. Wait, no. Yeah. I mean, we do play a lot of Battlefield, so I don't know. So, with the Artemis 2 mission coming up, NASA has been completing a lot of milestones and getting a lot of goals done. We saw that. But for every goal, there is setbacks. So, The other day, NASA's WB-57 was out doing training flights, right? And the landing gear didn't deploy. It didn't deploy, and they had to do a belly landing. Now, why is this a problem? The WB-57 are high-altitude reconnaissance planes that NASA uses. Actually, they were former high-altitude observation planes that NASA converted to be able to image vehicles coming through from reentry, right? They were originally reconnaissance planes, and NASA converted them. Actually, NASA paid Sierra Nevada Corporation to convert old ex-Air Force RB-50. You know what? This explanation is all over the place. I'm going to restart. Cool. All right, so what is that? That's a WB-57 airplane, and unfortunately, the landing gear didn't deploy, and the pilots were forced to make a belly landing at Ellington Airfield in Houston. That's where NASA operates most of its air fleet. Now, what are WB-57s? WB-57s are high-altitude planes that NASA uses for reentry reconnaissance. They are used to actually image spacecraft coming through reentry. And they're also used for a really, really nice view of a rocket going up during ascent. The WB-57 has been used to image Dragon 2 capsules coming back from reentry from SpaceX. It's been used to get you a good visual of Starship going up. It was used during Artemis 1. And that WB-57 was slated to image the Artemis 2 ascent next week. Yeah, the NG-2 landing footage. That's right, New Glenn. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they had that's right. Blue had that WB-57 out there imaging the landing. So a little bit on what this thing is, okay? So the WB-57s are ex-Air Force reconnaissance airplanes. The Air Force had a version of these bombers, which are called, they're originally bombers. They're called Canberras, right? The Air Force had these bombers, and it was originally used as a short-range bomber when it first came out. And then they were converted to RB-57s. That's what it looked like when it first came out. And then they ended up being used as an RB-57 for high-altitude reconnaissance and observation. They're somewhat analogous in RB-57s and WB-57s are somewhat analogous in function with a U-2. But yeah, NASA still uses these because it's a cheaper alternative to a U-2. NASA still uses them for high-altitude observation and reconnaissance. Now, the crazy thing is that airframe right there, guys, is that WB-57 was an RB-57, and that RB-57 was once a B-57, a regular old B-57. And now, just a little bit of a history lesson here. B-57s were a license-built bomber that was designed by English Electric, Canberra, or English Electric. And there was an English bomber that the Air Force liked so much that they ended up using it. Similar to like the Harrier. The Harrier, the Marine Corps ended up using it. But they were license-built by Martin in the United States and used for all types of reconnaissance. They could fly at pretty high altitude. It's a pretty good design. And then eventually they were converted to RB-57s and then WB-57s. Now, the crazy thing about that WB-57, the one that bellied yesterday, is that is one of 3 airworthy B-57 variants left in existence. The only people that use B-57s at this point is NASA. They have 3 of them. One of them just crashed. And now, don't get me wrong, it might be fixable. It probably is fixable. I mean, there was a lot of B-57s made, and there is still some spare parts lying around in the boneyard in Tucson. We saw that We saw that when we went and looked yesterday. I mean, it was on Google Earth, but there are still some RB-57s and B-57As or B-57Bs, I think they are, lying around. So there isn't a shortage of spare parts. There are other airframes around to fix this one, which is great. But this one is going to be down for the count for a little while. And here's where this really gets complicated. I said there's three. There's three WB-57s. One of them is the one that crashed, and the other two are under inspection right now. They're going through inspections. What does that mean in like plain English? Inspections for aircraft is basically something you have to do when an airframe or an aircraft reaches a certain amount of hours. Basically, think of an inspection to an airplane as like a physical. If you go to a physical go to the doctor for a physical, it's a more in-depth checkup. NASA's two other WB-57s are in inspections right now, and it's going to be a while before they're out. So NASA has no operable airworthy B-57s right now, or WB-57s. Yeah. 928 has been on inspection hold since 2021. Yep, the annuals, 100-hour inspections and annuals. There you go. I found all the AMPs in stream. What is the visible engine modification to the NASA version? The NASA versions definitely have upgraded motors. Give me 1 second. I will get you. So I will tell you this right now. I'm looking through the wiki page right here, and the original B-57, this is a B-57B. The original B-57s had J-65 turbojets. I can tell you right now that the NASA one does not have turbojets on it. It has high bypass turbofans. Yeah, see the cowl? So somebody hot rodded this thing with a high bypass turbofan, and that probably gives it much, 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 much higher range and altitude capability. Now, I have this diagram that was linked to me. Let's see if we can figure out what type of engine that is. Oh, it's got TF-33s in it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, TF. Here, I'm getting you a picture. So, well, I'll just show you. Here, look. This is off the wiki. So this is a list of things that use JT3Ds or TF33s. 707, 720, DC-8, Shanghai Y-10, which is probably a ripoff. B-52 Stratofortress. C-18, which is a military cargo version of the 737. KC-135, EC-135, KC-135. OC-135B, RC-135, WC-35, CC-137, which is it's a Canadian 707 for the armed forces. The E-3 Sentry uses that. VC-137, which is no longer used. E-8, C-141s use them, and RB-57s. Yeah, so The JT3D, the original one, I don't believe is a bypass turbofan. I believe the JT3C is a turbojet. Yep. And then they overhauled it to be the TF33. And the TF33, guys, long story short, it's a 737 engine. Yeah. An older 737, but it's a 737 engine. It's way older one, but yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why they were able to do it with basically off-the-shelf components. It's not exactly a 737 engine, but it pretty much is. JT is jet turbine, TF is turbofan. Yeah, there you go. Here's a question. What's keeping Lockheed from resurrecting Venture Star? My profit margins. People saying on a Discord that I'm in that the tiles on Falcon 9 was only painted to test tracking before they put real tiles. Painted? Maybe. I don't know. Interesting. If EJ was an engine, he'd be a J58. Either that or a J79. But yeah, so the WV57 is using TF33s. Yeah, multiplanetary. It's a little ridiculous that, I mean, guys, I tried to give you a little bit of a quick synopsis about the Canberra, but the reality of the situation is that Canberras are ridiculously old. Okay, you want to see when the first Canberras rolled off the assembly line? The English electric Canberra, check that out. That was the American-made version. The first flight for the English version, which was the original version, was 1949 for that thing. Oh boy. When did production on this end? Retired 1983, 1985. Huh. Just before the V bombers. Yeah, right? Yeah, it predates the damn V bombers. All right. Yeah. I think NASA's version looks the coolest. So once again, yeah, the plane did a belly landing at Ellington, and it's not great. What really sucks is A, that's a freaking antique, and B, this, I'm not gonna say that this is gonna delay the launch, but it very well could delay the launch. What are V bombers? Those are 3 bombers that was part of a defense program in England in the 50s. They made 3 bombers. They all began with V. So the Valiant, the Vulcan, and the Victor for defense. It was a big defense program in England, in the UK in the 1950s. Now, the Valiant was kind of a piece of junk. The Victor was okay. The Vulcan was sweet. Yeah. If you want to know, I mean, the Victor here, I'll show you the Victor first. It is it's a strange looking airplane. So that's one of them. That's the Victor, the Handley Page Victor. Then there was the Vickers Valiant, and then there was the Avro Vulcan. Yeah, that's a weird one. The Victor is a very strange looking plane. Now, the Valiant is actually kind of cool looking, I think. But it sucked so bad that they built them and then they figured out they were a piece of junk. I forget the reason why, and then they never built them again. I think it had problems with the wing box or something. There was something wrong with that thing, and yeah, the what was it? Bomber Command was like, no, I don't want that, mate. I don't want it. It's bad, you know. Probably. Wing root engines will always be peak. I'm kind of with you on that one, Philly. It's very, very nice looking. And then Flykin, the third one was my personal favorite, the Vulcan. The Vulcan is one of the prettiest looking airplanes around. It has 4 Rolls-Royce Olympus 593s in it. It is a monster bomber. And it's a looker. She's a looker. That's that one right there is XH558. That was the last airworthy Vulcan. Didn't it? Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you've ever seen Thunderball, the James Bond movie, yeah, there you go. Woo. Hey, you know what? I've never seen that picture before. I really like what's going on here. That's XH535 with 406. Quad 6. Wow, that's a really old B-52. That is a really old B-52. Holy balls. No wonder it's painted in orange. They're probably using it as a test bed. That's B-52 serial number 6, dude. Whoa. I don't even think that plane's still around. It's funny because serial number 8 was NASA's. And it was also painted orange. But yeah, you know what? I am, guys, if you don't mind, I'm just going to take this picture and I'm just going to save it in my really awesome plane pictures folder. I mean, I don't hate what's going on in this picture, fellas, to be real. That's pretty nice. That's, yeah. That Vulcan has flown over your house more than once, Burbs. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's, I've never seen that picture before. That's a sweet picture. But yeah, the Vulcan, oh. That's nice. This thing has those Olympus 593s in it. So like in the Olympus 593s were the same engines in Concorde. Yeah. The difference between Concorde and a Vulcan, though, is that the Concorde has an afterburner. Vulcan does not. It doesn't have any reheat. So some crazy melon farmer, when they were making the Concorde, it's like, take these engines that are superbly powerful because they're designed to lift bombs up in the air inside of the bomber, put an afterburner on them and make Concorde. And that's what they did. And that's why Concorde can go Mach 2. Serial number 6 crashed in Ohio due to tail failures. RIP. Black Buck Raid was a thing of beauty. You get no argument from me, Demon. You guys should make more of those. Just saying. Should make more of those. I know that's kind of our fault. I get it. You should make more. Those are cool. We like bombers. Didn't serial number 3 launch Neil Armstrong on the X-15 program? I've touched that plane, Nova. Yeah. Yeah, you should make more. Make more of those. We like those. Bombers are good. We should make more of those. Can you like... Can you just, you know, just, you know, the exhaust of the Concorde is square-shaped. Anything why? Better airflow at higher speed. As a bomber speaks to my American sensibilities, fellas. Like, just... The bomber computer is basically a bunch of old bicycle parts. Hey, if it's stupid and it works, then it ain't stupid, okay? This has been linked a couple of times regarding the WB-57. Let me see. Oh, this is from Bethany Stevens. She's a PAO for NASA Communications. Following standard medical evaluations at Ellington Field, both crew members aboard the WB-57 were cleared and are in good health. Both individuals are NASA employees. NASA operates 3 WB-57 aircraft. The one involved in today's incident is November 927. The aircraft departed Ellington Field for a routine training flight at approximately 10:19 a.m. Central and landed at 11:19 a.m. Central. NASA will lead a thorough investigation. Additional details will be provided once the investigation is complete. NASA anticipates no impact on Artemis II operations given the multiple aerial assets available to support, including the Gulfstream 5, Gulfstream 3, and a U.S. Navy C-20. These aircraft will provide imagery during key mission phases, including launch entry and splashdown. Oh, that's great. What happened? Spartship, you might not like what you see. Viewer discretion is advised. Will they scrap it? I don't think so. Ah. Yeah, that's awesome that you got to touch buff 3. Yep. That is one of the high points in my career, dude. That whole trip was nuts, man. Actually, we got invited back to Pima, to the restoration hangar. Those guys thought, I guess I made an impression because those guys thought we were cool. They were like, hell yeah, you need to come back. I'm like, all right, brother, let's do it. It'll buff out. Well, no, it's not a buff, Tim. I know what you mean. Like those F1 cars with the bottom metal plate. Yeah, the plank. Can I just, I'm sorry, can I? Hey, baby. The noise, Fluffy? We got to be careful with the sound, but also.
I'm a bit scared now. There go this.
All right, I see. Guys, hold up.
There go this.
Yeah, I'm looking.
He done it on purpose.
Totally random. FedEx will return MD-11 to operation later this year because FedEx did the upgrade to the pylon mounts. Oh, that's weird, right? Oh. Can I? Do you guys mind if I just, just for a second here? I just need to... Yeah, baby. Yeah. That thing is so damn cool. Please make more. Just, just, just do it. Do it. That thing's sick, man. What a freaking monster. Saw how low and short he was, right? Yeah, he goosed it, right? The guy goosed it. Live leak? What year is it? Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's why we like Vulcans. Vulcans are cool. Vulcans are cool. Those are pretty neat. Yeah, they're pretty good. Those are pretty neat. Speaking of Jet, saw F-35s for the first time at the Rolex 24. Nice, Eastern. All right. Hell yeah. She's a bit, isn't it? Yeah, mate. Yeah, that's really nice. I like that one a lot. That was more Australian, but whatever. Australians can appreciate Vulcans too. Bro, look at the silhouette. Dude, that is a pretty plane. That is a very pretty airplane. Also one of the only bombers that you could actually aileron roll. I mean, if you can't aileron roll when you have 4 Olympuses at your tail, like you made something wrong, right? Thanks for your permission. Oh, you're welcome, Don. Hey, the red arrows. I saw those guys. I shook one of those guys' hands. Pretty cool. Crazy that this thing flew just 11 years after the Lanx's first flight. That's ridiculous, dude. Woof. And it nuked New York and D.C. in a war game twice. Well, yeah. Was there any British Isles left after that war game? That's great. You nuked 2 of our cities. You probably have no country left. See, Tessa, that's what they never tell you about those war games. Like, you always hear about these war games, and you always hear, like, oh, did you hear about the Swedish submarine that took out the American aircraft carrier? Yeah, I heard about that. Did you hear about in that war game simulation that Sweden ceased to exist as a country after that? They don't tell you those parts.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
They don't tell you those parts, dude. They don't tell you about that part. That got a carrier though. Well, yeah, we got your whole country. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, but also, hey, Ryan, what's going on, buddy? They were simulating the high altitude Russian bombers. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I know. Anyway, Vulcans are cool. Victory bombers are cool. You should make more bombers. Come on, mates. Have at it. Make more, please. The JFK actually went up for sea trials. Yeah, that's right, Dons. I believe this warship should commit itself to being launched out to sea and going on sea trials. Dude, there's that. I'm sorry. Can I just one more time? Oh Lord! Damn, boy! Okay, that's cool. That video makes me happy. All right. Yeah, there's a history office there. We saw that already. B-57 bellied it. Goalie linked up this footage. This is Embry-Riddle's Daytona Beach's experimental rocket propulsion lab. It seems like they may have had a little bit of too much cheech with one of their test articles, and they posted about it. Yeah, see, that's probably not good. That's probably not good for it. Yeah. What was that? That was a Vulcan, man. It's the Abra Vulcan. Monster of a freaking bomber. Typical Daytona. Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, that's not supposed to do that. Okay. 2,142 frames per second footage of the moment the nozzle sheared off the Mo V1 engine. Our upcoming fully composite Mo V2 engine addresses this failure point alongside numerous upgrades to improve engine performance. Oh, is that what you call that? Ooh, Cyborg, look at that. Non-uniform. Non-uniform, meaning, look, it blew up on the far side first, and then that caused the stress crack on this side. See that? Look at that. So the reason why I pointed out, guys, is because one side of it failed and not the other. It didn't fail all at once. It looks like it does. Trink. But if you watch it really closely, you get a failure mode on one side of the nozzle. Failure on one side of the nozzle, and then the whole thing pops off. The reason why the whole thing pops off is because the failure of that caused deflection in the nozzle, and it causes it to shear to one side, and blowing the entire thing sideways. See? That's a very interesting point of failure, though. And I'm not sure why the nozzle is cylindric, unless there's a throat. Yeah, okay, there's a throat in there. All right. So it failed before the throat. The throat of this thing is right there somewhere. And there's the throat over there being ejected. Yeah, you don't need that. It's fine. Yeah, Garrett, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, that's, so... Huh. Man, look at so if this is pre-throat in the De La Val nozzle, right? That was a little bit on propulsion here. So you have a combustion chamber, you have a constriction, it's called an impingement. It's called the throat. That's the hourglass point, and then you have the nozzle. It looks like an hourglass. It's called a De La Val style nozzle. Every rocket engine uses this, right? It has the hourglass. That's why rocket engines look like a bell, right? Now, this was a failure before your impingement point, which means that you don't have uniform pressure pushing out in your combustion chamber here. Notice that it's sleeved. It's sleeved up until that point. And if the throat is right here, you have a weak point right there. In order for a rocket's combustion chamber to work correctly, you need to have uniform pressure. In a rocket's combustion chamber, you have uniform pressure pushing in all directions, except for through the throat, right? Pushing in all directions when the rocket engine is lit. If you don't have uniform structure built into your combustion chambers to take into account that the whole thing is going to try to push apart like a bomb, right? You're going to get differential load being put on the sidewall of the combustion chamber. And, well, yeah, that puff right there is loss of chamber pressure, and the resulting weak point right there blows the throat off of the entire motor. They shouldn't have done an unsupported graphite nozzle in the first place. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. That's what I'm saying. Why do you have non-uniform... why don't you have structure before your impingement? What are you doing? Like, I'm a moron and I know this. One of the worst choices they could have made. Graphite is fine, by the way. The way they did is not fine. Yeah, dude, they have a graphite... You have a combustion chamber, you're going into your graphite nozzle, right? And your metal ends before the throat. That's asking to fail. More Ron. We love Ron. Yeah. That's, yeah. Yeah. You need to have uniform structure built into your combustion chamber because it's going to push on all sides. And in this particular point, it found the weak link because it's pushing all equally over here, and that's working just fine. And then it's pushing past the sleeve right here, that metal sleeve, onto the graphite itself, and yeah, boom. I mean, like I said, they said they understand the behavior, right? But also at the same time, I don't follow that account. That's yeah, the engine's called Mo. They have another video of its startup. It's a graphite nozzle. Graphite throat too. There's start. Up. Right away, something plunked out the nozzle. There's another thing coming out of the nozzle that probably shouldn't. There's the plug. Watch right here. This is really good footage, actually. Wait, I missed this. Whose is this? This is Embry-Riddle Daytona's experimental rocket propulsion lab. They're messing with graphite engines here. They posted the footage. This is super interesting stuff. So, guys, this doesn't look too bad. What's really catching my eye here is just, and this might be just the imaging that they're using, but see how it's kind of pulsating a little bit? It tells me that there's turbulence in the throat or somewhere in the combustion chamber. See all this right here? That's not entirely what you want. I'm good, Turbine. How are you doing, man? I've seen this before. It happens when you improperly perform reactor cooling pump tests. Hey, students involved. Pretty cool. That's pretty stable for a Mark I version of a motor. I will say, this is really nice, actually. It's pretty dang good. Look at the, I mean, they didn't show it till a failure point, right? But see these cones right here? They're really nice. That's really close to being right, dude. It's really close. Yeah, sure, Jock. Go ahead. You want to post a similar engine that you were involved with the graphite nozzle? Yeah, sure. Yeah, vibrations, Slykin. That's vibrations coming through. Pretty good. A little chilly, but I don't mind. Thanks for asking. Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, a little chilly, dude. Yeah, you're telling me. Turbine, refresh my memory real quick. You're the turbine that has the in-law that works on the thing, right? But retired, but worked on the thing. You that turbine? Pretty sure you're that turbine. Just, it's more for appeasing my brain. The thing, yes, the thing. You know the thing. Yeah, no, not the thing. The thing. I am not that turbine, but that sounds interesting. Okay, cool. That's a different turbine. Got it. Cool. Anyway, how are you? All right. So, Jock, what do you got here? This is your test here. Oh, wait. It's got sound. We got it. Headphone users, this might get loud. It's got a cleaner burn after the nozzle exit stage right. Yeah, right. All right, let's see. When the fire is going in, either it's about to work or something really bad is about to happen. But I think this worked, so ready? Yeet! There we go. Building pressure. You hit combustion chamber pressure and watch, it'll stop for a second. Building pressure. Almost up to the right chamber pressure here. There we go. See how the flames change as the combustion chamber pressure goes up? See how it's all changing? Flames are getting bigger and bigger. And then once the explosion gets big enough to actually, this is the best way to describe it in plain English. Once the fire gets big enough to fill up the combustion chamber, basically you pressurize the combustion chamber with an explosion, with fire, that's when it starts to go. Watch. Very close to operational chamber pressure. Watch, it's gonna stop for a second. Ready? This is the weird part. Look. When it approaches the right combustion chamber pressure to achieve, ignition, right? Like full ignition, the flames stop for a second. Isn't that cool? And then, wait for it. Boom! Ha ha! All right. Jock, that's real nice, dude. Real nice. Real good. You're missing some pieces. Mint. Now there's a leg burner. We should do this. This would be cool. Oh, nice math phone, sister. 38 million farts from a Falcon 9. That's good. Can I explain a bit? First we pop our igniter. Pyro with steel wool. Yep. Then comes the oxygen bypass, low flow to not extinguish, followed by the ethanol bypass to have good combustion. And then a few meters a second later, the full flow goes in. Yep. Okay. All right. So you're using a bypass. It's not building combustion chamber pressure. That happens at the very end there. So yeah, you're okay. So that's what that is. That's your bypass. So let me read that once again. Okay. So, Jock, if you're cutting in a LOX bypass first, that's why you have all these sparks, right? Because it's burning real lean stuff right there, right? That's why, guys, that's why you're getting all those sparks. Can we put a nozzle on your jet engine in the shop? No, you wouldn't be able to sustain combustion chamber pressure. Spoiled. Could we hook a turbocharger to it and make it into a turbojet? Yes. How hot is a spark? Well, a spark pigeon is usually a very small bit of combustible material that is burning very, very bright and very, very hot. These sparks are really bright, but they don't carry a lot of energy. You need to build a turbo barrel burner. Yeah, so that's your LOX cut in. Okay, I get it, Jock. And then when the flames change, you're bringing in the ethanol. Got it. Now the bypass of LOX is only a few meters a second before the ethanol bypass. Then both are going tens to hundreds of milliseconds before full flow. So that's both propellants. Interesting. You're ablating the frick out of that nozzle, though. I mean, if it works. This is a student motor, Fleichen. Well, yeah, it's Delft. It's a student motor. The student motors are basically just it's not really just necessarily designed for application. It's just designed to make a rocket engine. Though it's not super accurate, there's like 1.5 meters of hose from the tank, so timing is a bit tricky. That's a long run for an engine like this, yeah. Hey, May. Also, hi. I'm a major lurker in 2026 so far. Hey, don't worry about it. Lurk away. So if you're cutting in the propellants basically at the last second here, yeah, your build to combustion chamber pressure is going to be very, very quick. Yeah, it's about to get real hot. That's awesome, dude. Actually, Jock, that looks real nice. So I don't know if you're still working on this or not, dude. Like I'm pretty sure you're not on that student team anymore, but your stainless is moving all over. See that? I'd be careful with that. It'll fatigue over time. Either way, great. This is really nice. You got gifted a sub from Poison. There you go. Oh, look at that shutdown. That is... Very nice. That's good, man. Very, very good. Very good. That looks real nice. And then, yeah. And then, okay. Yeah, I purged it out. Cool. And that's that whole thing in real time? I wonder how many people have built liquid fuel rocket engines, student ones included. There's not a lot out there, Turbine. But yeah. I want to see it in full speed. Nah, Black and we're good. This is only the battleship for the printed engine with regen. Fired that for like 15 seconds or so at some point as well. Should be on the channel. Wanted to fly it the past fall, but didn't end up going. That rewind is screwing me up. Actually, Jock, I'm looking at how the heat is propagating through that nozzle. It's actually pretty uniform. That's really nice. That's really nice, dude. That's really nice, actually. Yeah, that's a good little motor. It was happy for the second that it was firing there. That's nice. Very nice. Good stuff, man. Oh. Hey, dudes. they followed me back. All right. Neat. There you go. Oh, hi, Embry Riddle Experimental Propulsion Rocket Lab. How are you? That happens, man. It's always weird when it happens. All right. What's up, dudes? I like rockets. Should build one. Hey, older Buffalo. Your birthday is on the 10th. Assuming Artemis liftoff's on the 6th, will they pass by the moon on your birthday? No, they'll be in transit to the moon, dude. Yeah. They'll be almost there if it launches on the 6th. Random question. Have we have any updates on Joey B's liquid fuel engines? I could ask him if you want. I'm sure he's got something. I didn't yawn, I swear. So this is coming from the National Reconnaissance Office. This is the last bit of space news here. This isn't exactly like space news, but Jumpseat, the United States' first generation highly elliptical orbit signal collection satellite, has recently been declassified. So signals intelligence thing is something that's going to be used to, it's something that's going to be used to basically, well, it's a listening post in space. That's what it is. Still planning on wearing a suit for the Artemis 2 launch coverage? I forgot that I said that, May. I'll do it. Sure. Yeah, I'll wear my suit. Wait, spinning shell? It spins? Yeah. It's a gyro. It spins. It's gyroscopically stabilized. The antennas have to be pointed in the right direction, Flykin. Yeah, this whole bottom thing actually spins around. Launched on the shuttle. This thing looks like it was launched on a Titan rocket, if I'm looking at that right. Jumpseat was the first generation high-altitude electronic intelligence collection system that downlinked collected data to ground processing facilities within the United States. Once received, the data was provided to selected Department of Defense agencies and the National Security Agency for processing and reporting to U.S. policymakers. Launched from 1971 to 1987 under mission numbers 7701 to 7708, Jumpseat was successfully operated by the National Reconnaissance Office until 2006 when it was decommissioned following coordination with stakeholder elements from within the intelligent communities. Or within the intelligence community. Well, 1971, that's a Titan. It launched on a Titan, dudes. Here. Wow, that was quick. Yep, Titan 3B with the Gina D boosters. Okay. So they're ABM radars, anti-ballistic missile radars. They'll detect they're there to detect a missile launch. There was one failure when the second satellite's Agena malfunctioned and left it in a useless orbit. 700-kilogram Jumpseat satellites were manufactured by Hughes and were inserted into highly elliptical Molina orbits, or lightning orbits, with an inclination of 63 degrees and orbital periods close to 12 hours. Interesting. These were similar orbits to the SDS relay satellites. The successors to Jumpseats are the Trumpet satellites. Yet we have no idea what those look like. Oh, Soviet ABM radars. Excuse me, I read that wrong. You guys are right. Slick 4. Dude, all of them were launched from Slick 4 West. That's Space Launch Complex 4 at Vandenberg. Slick 4 West is Falcon 9's landing pad. Yeah, Slick 4 West is Falcon 9's landing pad nowadays. That's LC4. That's very interesting. There's a lot of history there. Also, this is 50-year-old tech, so imagine what's up there now. Bill, yeah. Imagine what's up there now. I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit. Just saying. Slick 40 is in Florida, yes. Imagine quite a bit, dude. Trisector fairing. Trisector fairing. Those are pretty cool. What do they do? Don't know. They're radars. Yep. Satellites progressed as much as the manned flights didn't. Yeah, right? Probably some sort of phased array. Dude. Yeah. On the ground, on the ground. Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. Today, a coworker asked me if I wanted to tour DARPA. I said yes, and then he stopped and looked at me and said, "You don't have a top secret clearance, do you?" And I said no, and he looked at his shoes and then at me and he said, "Never mind, I can only show you the parking lot." That's so messed up. Oh, nice, Pace. That's funny. I want to check that out. You still have the Sam Adams space beer? Yeah, it's in my fridge. Your late dad was the CTO of Airbus Space. Oh, I'm sorry, TFT. That stinks. Sorry, pass. That the Airbus part is cool. So I think it's interesting that they were peeping on the Soviet ABM radar. That says to me that they were using the data to overcome detection and targeting system. Yeah, probably. He's been stuck at PSK for like 2 hours trying to get the hose attached. Why is the hose off at PSK? Oh, yeah, also. What? It's on a website, dude. It's fine. But also, those things are super cool. What do they do? Don't know. What does it do? Heck yeah, I'm going to talk about it on my blog. Yeah. So those are what came. That is called Orion. At least that's what everybody thinks the name is. Those came after that. That's the successor. These are not necessarily like jump seat. That's a fairing. That's the fairing that they used on Titan, and that is the dish to scale to the fairing. I have one of these pointed at my house right now. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, that's the reason why you can find a picture of it on the internet is because it's old. Old. Yeah, that's the trisector fairing. That dude, those things are up there. Those antennas have I mean, Phil, what's the diameter on those trumpets? The Orion trumpets. It's got to be I don't know, 40, 50 meter. 100 meters, you think? That's ridiculous. Like, dude, I get it. Like, Spy Satellite, like, oh my God, Spy Satellite. Dude, that's just cool. That's just super cool. How did you fit that in a fairing? Like, how? Like, is it bad if, like, that's what I'm, like, curious about? Like, how'd you fit that into a trisector fairing? How did you, yeah, very carefully. How'd you fit that in there? That's like a clown car, dude. Man. Yeah, that's some real good origami right there. Jeez. Has anyone ever imaged one from the ground? I doubt it. I don't actually remember where those trumpet satellites ended up. Hold on. I'm gonna say with an antenna that big, it's probably not a Molina orbit. 5,200 kilos. Three of these satellites were launched into. Oh, they are in Molina orbits by Titan 4s from Cape Canaveral, beginning between 1994 and 97. The precise mission and capabilities are still classified. That's impressive, dude. I ain't even mad. That's impressive. Wow. So what's that, Phil? Look at the brightness difference compared to a regular geostationary satellite. Dude, that thing is huge. Holy crap, man. God, that's so cool, dude. That is so cool. Come on, man. We're building stuff that big up in space, dude. Let's build like a space station that big, man. Build like 5 space stations that big, man. That's pretty cool. And now that I'm going to get a knock on my door a little bit later, I think that's time to end space news. The Raya has a deployable antenna as well. Yeah, that's a pretty big one, man. The Raya is the Russian version, though. Yeah, we would be peeping on that, dude. That's what we do. That's what they do, too, though. Okay, I think that was a good space news, dudes. I think we're done. Yeah, like when they show up in Winter Car. You know. Signals Intelligence, a.k.a. Snoopin'. My Winter Car time? You dropping or my winter car? Let's get the car running. Let's get the car running. Let's do that. All right, that's going to do it for Space News, guys. I'm going to jog the YouTube VOD. I'll be right back so we can play Winter Car. Thank you very much for watching.